It is your Classic Metal Show right here on the ClassicMetalShow.com. That is Every Mother's Nightmare, one of my favorite bands from the late 80s, early 90s, if you will. And that's something from the re-release version of Backtraxx that is called Southern Way. And a guy who could teach us all the Southern Way is the lead vocalist and leader of the band, our good friend Rick Ruhl. What's going on there, Rick?
How you doing, brother? Oh, man, just hanging out. Just got off the road yesterday.
Well, where have you been, Rick? I hooked up with you last August at the Summer Bash for the Bill Chavez came to Ohio. Yeah. He brought you guys with him, and you played a phenomenal show, and we had the opportunity to broadcast it live. So where have you been? What have you been doing?
Man, we've been doing a little bit of everything. We just got back. We went up to Baltimore and New Jersey and New York and played a couple of shows and shot some live footage for the next 3 videos, which one will be Southern Way, and one we did a video for Southern Way off Backtraxx. We did a video for Pray For You off of Smoking Delta Voodoo, and we also did some footage for Snake off of Grind. We're riding 3 records right now, so it's pretty cool.
Wow. Well, look at you, Rick. You know, I know you guys, you know, obviously you have a history of, you know, coming out, kind of making a splash in the late 80s and the early 90s with your first 2 records, you know, and here we are, and I hate to say this, but we're already 30 years removed from that time, and you're still out there doing it and recording new music. And you know, I got to tell you, as much as I love the debut release and the Wake Up Screaming release, I got to tell you that the Smokin' Delta Voodoo release is probably my favorite out of your catalog.
That was probably my favorite too. Just for that was my biggest songwriting spurt that I had. I came out of a little bit of a drug problem, and I was trying to get my life back together. And that album just kind of was I don't know what you would call it. It kind of was just my savior, I guess. Everything that I was going through, I just wrote down and wrote these songs, and they came out just really good and true to life. And that's all I ever look for is true to life. And you know, maybe it'll help somebody down the road not to make some of the wrong turns I made. But I'm loving it. Yeah, man, I'm writing 3 records right now. I can't believe it.
Yeah. Well, Rick, if you don't mind me getting a little personal with you, what was the drug issue you were having? What were you dealing with as far as the type of drug?
Oh, I got into a thing called crystal meth because I thought it was helping me, keeping me going, and it turned out I wrote a song on the Smokin' Delta Voodoo record called Kerosene, and that's kind of what it's about. You know, it was I call it a slow-moving flame, but it burned up everything, you know, so just a bad deal. Just something I got mixed up with, and luckily I caught it, and my friends caught it, and everybody got my ass on it. And, I finally realized, you know, I was just living in a cloud, and I came out of it, and I'm stronger and much wiser and much better now, so thanks to them and thanks to me for getting my shit together.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Rick, the first time that I ran into you was, I believe it was like way back in like 2003 or 2004. You were performing at Billy Morris's club in Parma, Ohio at the Revolution nightclub. And I've told you this before, but that was one of the most probably one of the best club shows I had ever seen. And, you know, it was the first time I got to meet you in person and just kind of chit-chat with you a little bit. And, you know, you were looking healthy. You sounded great. You know, you guys performed very well. Can you kind of shed a little bit light on it? And I'm going to just be honest here. I've never gotten into drugs at all. I've never even smoked weed so much as that. even though I love the heavy metal, which, you know, obviously people make a lot of assumptions that, oh, you're that long-haired heavy metal guy. You must be doing a lot of drugs and blow and this and that. How do you get into smoking meth? How does that happen?
Man, it's just it's kind of a weird thing how it happened. You know, it was just a step away from you know, people do cocaine, and that was like the that was the end when you were doing what we were doing and the level we were doing. Cocaine was the thing, and then it was just the next step. You know, it was just another dumb move I stepped into and tried, and it was just you know, it was just something that somebody gave me, and I tried it. It would keep you up for days, and you feel like, man, I'm getting so much accomplished, but you were just doing stuff ass backwards, and it's basically just a smoke screen and makes you think you're doing way better than you are until you realize you're not.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you know what? I've seen you perform on several occasions because, you know, Every Mother's Nightmare unfortunately came out a little late in the game. So you didn't quite get the pop or the press that a lot of your contemporaries got earlier on. But you guys never allowed that to slow you down, and you stayed with it, and continued releasing records, and obviously are touring around, and you do what you do, and you're still one of my favorites. I always enjoy your music, and one of your bandmates who had been in and out of the band. When I saw you back in August, I know Jim Phipps had rejoined the band at one point, and then when I saw you in August, you told me he just basically was MIA. What happened? Yeah. What happened there? Is that anything you could talk about at all?
I will talk. Yeah, I will talk about it. Jim was my brother. I started this band with him. So he had contacted me, and he wanted back in after we had done the Grind record, and he wanted back in, and he kept calling, so I stopped by his house. Me and Lonnie, he had some stuff he had to take care of, and we had to part ways for a bit, and I knew that he was going to do his thing, and I had to do my thing. So I started talking to Jimmy, and he was all good, and he came in here, and he did 5 or 6 shows, maybe, or maybe a month or two of shows, and he ended up getting married, and he moved to Chattanooga. And one day, our 2 biggest shows I was wanting to hit all year was Denver and Salt Lake City. And right before him, he just bailed out and said he wasn't doing it. so he just kind of left us hanging there. And but we reformulated, and we got Alan Bone in here with us, and phenomenal drummer, great singer. He's brought so much. If you've seen us then, wait till you see us now, because he's brought just so much more to the band. We're 6 songs deep into a new record right now that we've been writing, and it's great,
Absolutely. Well, you've come across obviously Bill Chavez of High Volume Music, who has been cool enough to acquire the rights to release your back catalog, as well as release your new stuff. And Bill's a great guy, and he believes in the music, and he believes in the artists that he has on his label, and obviously he's believed in Every Mother's Nightmare enough to re-release some of your music, and obviously the newest one to be re-released is Backtraxx, which I think you had that on. Was that like a New Jersey label or something at one time?
It was a label. I put it out on Paris Records, was down in Texas.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's right.
They were. I put it out with them guys, and they just really didn't. Great label, but they just didn't have the power to push it or anything like that. And Chavis heard it, and he was like, "Man, I want to put this out. I want to refresh it up. Let's put some new songs with it, put a new cover on it, and let's put it out." And that's all the songs that we were shopping back in '95. For our 3rd record. That's how far I went from rock and roll to this hillbilly crazy rock and roll thing. And I was like, man, I'm so far ahead, I'm behind. I don't know what's going on.
Well, I hate to say it, but we're almost heading up on a quarter century since this release was originally released. It doesn't,
right?
Rick, you and I are about the same age, and it just seems so strange to talk about Backtraxx when I think about Backtraxx, because I bought the original copy,
right?
And I go, God damn, that was 25 years ago, and now here it is again.
Right. hey, man, me and Troy were sitting there trying to figure out how to play it when we were shooting video the other night. Like, what do we do here?
So, what can you tell us about Backtraxx? Can you dig back in your mind a little bit about what you recall about recording this record and what the hopes were for it, especially since it was at I guess it was kind of in the tail end of the grunge era.
Yeah, man, I was just trying to do something. I was living in Nashville, and I was recording in Knoxville with my buddy Danny Brown. And, we were hanging out with, Brian Sutton, who played on it. He plays with Ricky Skaggs and stuff. And I just really wanted to do something that was kind of rock and roll like we do, but really true down to our hillbilly roots, and just trying to throw some real Southern stuff in there. And, I think we kind of did it. It's kind of, some of it's a little weird to hear it in there, but, every time I listen to it, I say, man, it's pretty cool. It's just, we just threw some regular old banjo and mandolin and violin, and they're on top of some heavy roots, and it's pretty cool. I still dig it. After all these years, I put it on and listened to it. I was like, it's still pretty good. I wish we could record it again, but
well, it kind of captures a moment in time, though, for the band.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh yeah, man. It definitely takes me back to. I mean, we were definitely trying to. I sent that stuff to a friend of ours at Geffen, and he come back and he goes, I love it. He goes, I don't know what to do with it, but I love it.
Yeah, well, I kind of get that. I really do. I kind of get that. And the thing is that, and here I want to talk about this a little bit, Rick. When Every Mother's Nightmare hit commercial airwaves, when, commercial airwaves were still accepting of the style of music you guys did early on, was the early Every Mother's Nightmare releases, the self-titled and the Wake Up Screaming, was that the genuine Every Mother's Nightmare, or were you kind of pushed to be a something in order to make a mainstream? Because obviously what you're doing now and what you did after those two records is more country tinged or more Southern tinged, if you will.
Yeah.
So were you pushed in a direction to sound more mainstream, and I hate using this term, but I think you'll get what I'm saying, more hair band oriented? Oh,
definitely. I mean, there was definitely back in the day, and I'm not knocking it any way. You had to have a certain formula. You had to have that kind of, that 80s hair band, ballad kind of song. You had to have that, and you had to be a certain way. We were definitely cleaned up and washed off of much. We were much dirtier than they let us. Than they showed us. They made the pretty side of us. We're not pretty at all.
Well, were you happy?
Just a rock band,
Well, were you happy you had success being something that you were not?
In a way, it's like a catch-22. It's very, very flattering that the fans and the people that come to see you. It's really cool nowadays. The fans that have stuck with us all the years and have really kind of known what we were and known how the business worked, and the people that come up and say, "Man, I've been following you for day one." I had a dude the other night, and I'd seen him at shows before. I could not make him smile. He was standing right in front of me. I could not make him smile. Could not make him do nothing. And he came up to me after the show, and he goes, "Man," he goes, "I've had the worst year of my life." He goes, "My dad passed away, and my woman left me, and this song, Days Are Through, off for a new record," he goes, "it's got me through all of it." And he goes, I love you. Thank you for it. Gave me a hug. That right there, my friend, is the most gratifying thing, more than money or anything ever. Just a little old song that I wrote to help somebody through a tough break. That's top notch for me.
Yeah, well, absolutely. Well, I think you're, and I'm not trying to, blow smoke up your ass here, but you're definitely the blue collar man's rock. And,
oh, yeah, definitely, man. I'm the poorest fucker you know.
and when I went back on your bus with you and I gave you all those CD covers that one of my fans had said, man,
Yeah.
I'm not going to see Rick, myself, so could you do me a favor and have Rick sign all my CD covers for me, This guy sent all of his CD covers from California to me, so I could see you, so you could sign them, so I could send them back to him. Because
awesome, man.
because he was so, he just wanted, a little piece of that Every Mother's Nightmare. And obviously he was a fan because not only did he have your whole catalog, but he had like these special edition releases and all kinds of stuff.
I know he had stuff. I remember that, man. He had stuff that I didn't even never seen before. I was like, what is that? I think he had a demo tape or something.
He did. But that's the impression that you leave on people who relate to your music, Rick. And, I'm the same way. I mean, my partner, Chris, he was not real familiar with your work, but I've always been a fan. I love the stuff from the day one that I heard, Every Mother's Nightmare. I'll tell you where I heard Every Mother's Nightmare for the first time, and you may remember this, but there was a radio station out of Columbus, Ohio called The Blitz.
Yeah.
And there was a girl on there. Her name was Ronnie Hunter. I think that was her name.
Right.
And she was a evening DJ, and she was like a big fan of yours, and she would always play Every Mother's Nightmare on there all the time. And that's where I got to hear you guys, because at the time I was driving a truck over the road.
Right.
No more blue collar than that. And Every Mother's Nightmare was my soundtrack,
There you go.
So
soundtrack to blue collar, baby.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So here we are. What was that debut? It was like 1990, 89 or 90?
89.
89. So here we are 30 years later, and you're still out there kicking around, releasing new music, still playing live. Is it still profitable for you, Rick? I mean, because when I saw you, obviously you guys had a bus, which,
Let me tell you what. I'll tell you straight up, man. I do this right now as long as we have splurged and we bought us this bus, me and Troy, because Troy's been with me 24 years now. But we got us a bus, and man, as long as my band gets paid and my crew, I haven't been paid in 5 years. But I get to go out and play music and meet people and say hi to everybody, and I make my little bit of money off my royalties and this and that. But I just really want to do this for real and just do it as a rock band. Do it with my 5 guys that I love, and just do it. And if we make a little money, more power to it. But it's just the satisfaction of getting out. And we had a lot of bridges to rebuild when I went through my little section of bad decisions, and so I'm just out proving point and showing that we're just a rock band, and that's all we want to be is a rock band. We don't care about all the glitzy. We just want to go out and hammer some songs, kick ass, and meet some people and have a good time.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Rick, I'm gonna veer off here a little bit. I know we're talking about Backtraxx and the re-release of that, but tell me a little bit about Deeper Shade of Gray.
Deeper Shade of Gray, man. That was like we just finished smoking Delta Voodoo, and we'd been out on the road, and we had a 2-week, and I wish I would have more, but we had a 2-week to come home, write this record, and then get down to Austin, Texas, and record it. So that's what we did. Well, we had been every day at soundcheck. We were finishing up songs and working on songs and trying to get them done. Stopped at my house for probably a week and just tidied everything up the best we could. And then for the next, we went right in the studio, recorded straight for 2 weeks, and then I stayed another week and we mixed, and then we mastered it. And by the time I done that, I was so burnt that it was, it's almost a mess. But that's the only time frame I had, and nobody was giving us no, big recording budgets or any kind of recording budget. So this man gave me a 2 or 3 week stand to record, and I jumped in there and took it and made the best I could with it. But the songs on there, there's some really good songs on there that I love, and we still play to this day. So.
Well, Rick, I'm glad you're still doing what you're doing. And who's currently in your band right now?
Right now, there's me, John Gunnery, Travis Butler, Alan Bone on the drums, and my sergeant Troy Fleming on bass.
Perfect. You guys are
good stuff.
You guys are pretty tight now, right?
Oh man, it's the best versions yet. We've been out. We played with Warrant the other night and gave them one hell of a run for their money.
So did the Warrant guys treat you okay?
Oh, they never treat us okay, because the last 2 times we played with them, we burn them up. You didn't hear that from me, though.
I hear you. Well, Rick, you live in Memphis, right?
Yes, sir.
Let me ask you something, because you don't know what the media is really reporting. Is the crime situation in Memphis as bad as it's reported?
Oh, it's terrible here, man. If I didn't have to be here, I would be. I'm from East Tennessee, up in Gatlinburg in the mountains. So if I didn't have to be here, I would probably be up there. But it's, for the most part, it's just like every other town. You go to the bad part and you get the bad stuff. You stay on the good side and you don't get beat up half as bad.
Was there any chance that a Rick Ruhl and Every Mother's Nightmare would play down on Beale Street?
Oh yeah, we used to play there all the time. We're looking at doing another show down there as soon as we get them in it.
Perfect. But you won't venture over on the other side of the state line there to West Memphis. That's where all the
man, we'll go anywhere. We got guns.
Well, that's what we like about you, Rick. You're blue collar, you're rock and roll, you're gritty, and you like guns.
That's right, and we even like alcohol with our guns. You can't get much wrong with that.
Well, I just bought a new 44 mag there, Rick, and I shot that off over Easter for the first time. So we love our guns, and rock and roll, right?
That's right, brother.
Well, since I know that you often wear like a ball cap on stage, would you ever wear a "Make America Great Again" hat on stage?
Oh, I will, man. I wear every kind of gun shirt, anything I can find. I always wear stuff like that. American flags are my favorite.
Well, I'd like to see you wear a Classic Metal Show shirt on stage one time, Rick.
Well, that's it. I'll get one and I'll do it. Shoot me one to Bill Chavis and I'll wear it.
Absolutely. Well, Rick, is there anything else you want to tell us a little bit about Backtraxx, or what's going on with the band, or where we could see you this year, or anything like that?
Man, we're going everywhere this summer. Bill Chavis is working us to death. So, man, if you want to come see a good rock and roll show and just let your hair down and not worry about no shit, just come and hang out, because that's what we do. We're just a rock and roll band. We're just coming to have a good time for a night and meet some new friends, and hopefully I'll get home without going to jail.
So are you guys all healthy and in good shape, and no problems?
Oh, dude, it's yeah, man, I'm probably the healthiest I've ever been. My mom's been making me take vitamins. She's vitamins to me all the time. So I finally gave in and started taking B12 and all this stuff, and now I have all this extra energy, and my woman is. I'm driving her mad. She's like, "You got to go somewhere."
Very nice. Well,
Rick, other than that, it's okay.
Perfect. Well, Rick, it's always a pleasure to talk to you. I enjoy having you here on the Classic Metal Show, and I like catching up with you when I can out on the road. And hopefully, if you're somewhere in the area, I can get out there and see you again. But the re-release of Backtraxx, Every Mother's Nightmare, is available on High Volume Music, and our good friend Bill Chavis has been very cool to take Every Mother's Nightmare as one of his artists on his label, and I suggest you go out there and get it, as well as the other back catalog from Every Mother's Nightmare, because Bill was cool enough to actually re-release your first 2 commercial releases too, right?
I think. Well, I know he got the rights to it. I don't know if he's done it yet, but that's what Bill. Anything he finds of mine, he's trying to release it.
Well, I don't blame him for that.
Yeah, actually, I messed up last weekend when he invited us to his house for crabs. So he might not talk to us no more after that.
Well, if you're ever in the Chicago area, Rick, you're welcome to come down to the Classic Metal Show studio live and hang out with us, because I'm sure you'd make a great third mic.
Yes, sir. Let's do it.
All right. All right, Rick, we appreciate you taking the time out to talk to us again. Go out and pick up Backtraxx as well as Grind, which is the latest Every Mother's Nightmare release. And when do you anticipate your new one coming out, since you're working on it now?
We're actually going into the studio. We're going to go ahead and cut one of the tracks that we've got done and go ahead and do like a CD single kind of deal, like back in the day. We're going to throw 3 or 4 live songs on it and maybe a video, and just kind of shoot it out there and let one of the songs leak out and see what it get a little taste of it. But I know we're doing that in June, so I would figure, at least 4 or 5 months after that before we'd even think about it being done. So,
well, let's just say early 2020 we'll see a new Every Mother's Nightmare release. How's that?
Yeah, that'll work.
Well, don't forget to throw the Classic Metal Show in on the liner notes there, because we love you here.
Oh yeah, man, well, you're on there.
All right, Rick. Well, we always let the artist pick a track from the CD that we're promoting. So obviously from Backtraxx, what should we play out of this interview, and tell us maybe a quick story about it?
I think I'll tell you, let's do Muddy Water.
Okay.
And it's self-explanatory.
Perfect. All right. Well, here you go. Here's your dose of Every Mother's Nightmare, and from Backtraxx. This is Muddy Water, exclusively here on your Classic Metal Show.